All right, real quick, I wanted to show you what I did to prepare your mug. First, I fired it, and now it is ceramics. Then I took a circle that I pre-measured just to trace around it, and then I took hot glue, and I made what we call a foot around that circle, because we need a space where the glaze will not go, because essentially what glaze does is it's like glass that has fused to your ceramics. And if we don't have that foot, then the ceramics will fuse to the bottom of the kiln shelf. So we'll put those on little stilts, and I'll show you those in a bit, on the hot glue. And then we don't paint the glaze where the hot glue is. Okay, now with glaze, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. The more layers you put on, the more vibrant and smooth that will be. So that's kind of a rough texture, and that's a very smooth texture. So that was one layer versus 3 layers. So the samples that I have are done in 1, 2, and 3 layers. All right, so once again, a very rough texture versus very smooth. The more you coat it, the better it will look. Okay. So, when you paint on your ceramics, you have to be very careful about what it says. Guess what color this ends up being? You think like pink or something? Well, you would be wrong, because it turns dark blue. Glaze is kind of weird in that sometimes, like this one, which you're like, okay, so I'll think of something opposite orange. I don't know. What is it? Well, that turns light blue. So that's why you have to look at the samples and or the sample sheets that they give you, because what it looks like doesn't necessarily turn what it is. Even though this one looks orange and it turns a more vibrant orange, and this one looks a little light blue but it turns blue, and this one looks pink and it turns dark blue. Okay, so not always logical in what it starts out with versus how it ends. So I'm going to put a jar of glaze on each table, and when you glaze, you want to make sure your towel is clean and dry. Do not mix the colors, because they can mix and then you have an entire jar that's mixed up. And then you're just going to start painting it on. Alright, so as you can see, I'm painting inside of my glue there. Don't paint over it, because then we just have to wipe it off, and it's better if we just don't have any paint on there at all. Ceramics is very porous and very dry, and so it sucks the moisture out of paints very quickly. That's already dry and ready for the second layer. So then I paint on the second layer, and it dries very quickly, and I can paint on the third layer, just like that. Third layer, there you go. So now I've got 3 layers on there very quickly. And then you can just continue to paint your mug however you would like. Now remember, these are overglaze paints, which means they're a little sloppier than underglaze. So I would avoid any lettering or things like that, because it kind of has a melty liquid tempera look to it, much less than, like, say, pen. Alright, the last thing I want to show you is that stilt that I was telling you about. So after you have completely glazed it, what I will do is I will take this stilt and I will lay it up on that glue there, or the crowns, or wax resist, however it's done, and then I will put it on the kiln shelf like that and fire it in the kiln. And then that way the glaze will not fuse itself to the bottom of the kiln shelf. Again, please remember to look at the sample tiles and to read the labels for the colors you are going to use.